Right, so this is going to be part 8, the i200 restoration. Got Tom cleaning the A-post cover up here, and see how bad that is. The jacking points still haven't come, so we're going to continue working onto this section. Put a little piece out here, this all wants seam welding in. Marked out some other areas that want cutting back. Got this section here to come out, all this section here is going to come out right round. Noticed a soft spot in this section which I repaired last night, so I'm going to put this out, put a piece in there, make that nice and strong. Done a bit more cleaning up. The underside. Hopefully get this rear arch topped out all the way around here. Back panel's been cleaned up a bit. It seems that every previous repair on this car has actually rotten out again. Same again here. Everywhere it's been previously repaired is rotten again. We've ground this back a bit, and it's also had an arch repair in here in the past as well. So all this is going to come out. So we'll crack on. Right, so we've cleaned all this A-post up. That's pretty solid. We'll get all this treated. It's a bit of surface rust there, but it's still all solid down this end and under here. There is a little bit there, so we'll take this panel out from this section and we'll replace this as far as we need to. I've got to build a top plate for this anyway, but again, I need to attach this jacking point to this inner section, so we need to get that done first before we can build any of this. So we've got this piece of inner sill trimmed out and tacked in to where we've replaced the floor pan. So obviously the floor pan has now replaced that section of the inner. So we've also got these bits cut out where the floor was soft, and we've put some masking tape in there. This is what we make the panels with. There is other ways of doing this. This is just the way I like to do it. So I'll put the masking tape from the inside out. Always allow and make sure you leave enough for that bulge in the floor, because otherwise your panel will fall short by the time you cut it. But the good thing about this is, obviously this is the sticky side. So once we've took this off, I've drawn around here with a pen and took a template off that. We will then remove this, stick that to a piece of sheet steel. Once that's flattened out, that should hopefully allow for that roll, the extra bit of panel we're going to need to form that roll there. So all these are masking taped up. This is just the way I like to do it. This was the section we finished last night, so that's all nice and solid. I will be replacing this small section here because I'm not completely happy with that. We've cut the the rear wheel arch out as far as we need to get rid of all the rot out of there. I've also removed this section of the inner. Now, people have asked me, what do I make this inner section from to attach it to the outer skin? The answer is I don't bother putting a piece back on here. What I do is, once I've got this wheel arch repair panel on, I then seam weld this to the inside of the arch all the way around, because doubling that skin up there to me is just an invitation for rust to form between the panels. It's plenty strong enough being a single skin on that edge, and it just prevents rust from forming in between those two seams. So here's the rear arch repair panel. As I was saying in the previous video, we will not use all of this. As you can see, it goes quite far up into the rear quarter. So we will be trimming this back. We'll then, once we've got this trimmed, we'll then scour around that onto the car and then just trim a little bit more off the car for this to suit. This just prevents any warping into the rear quarter, because if you use that much of that panel, it's just going to warp the hell out of that rear quarter. But this should sit on there pretty nice by the time it's done. We've also cleaned up all the inside of here, got all this old nasty stuff out. So as you can see, once that's in there and it's all butted up, that'll fit in there nice and tight. and I'll then seam weld around that inner all the way around to this outer skin. Right, so I'm going to pull these patches out of here now. I'm going to put them onto a piece of sheet steel, start to cut some plates and make some patches for these, and let's get them welded in. We've got our patches cut out, laid on our piece of Zintek sheet. We've drawn around them, so now we'll peel these off. We'll roughly cut them out, and then we'll take them over to the bench grinder and just clean them up, fine fettle them, make them fit nice and tight as possible, and then we'll start to tack them, weld them in, bit of hammer and dolly, keep it from warping, and then we'll move on to the next section, which will possibly be this rear arch, but we'll see what we're like for time, see how long this takes. Right, we've got our patches tacked in, knocked out to a decent shape. So all three of them in. That were a bit of a nightmare with all these rolls, curves in it. We've drilled some holes in there so we can plug weld that in and get all that tied back together. Same here, we plug them, we give them a bit of a squeeze with the clamps to pull it all nice and tight. We'll seam these up, give them a flat back, and then we'll move on to hopefully the rear arch. Right, so our patches are now all seamed up. I'll start to flat these off very shortly. I've got my brother here giving me a lift tonight, so we're going to remove this jig in a minute, get this out of the way, and then Kevin's going to start to form and reshape all these swan neck covers and the chassis rails, get these ready, because hopefully these jacking points will be here tomorrow. So at least we can get in front with this when the jacking points do come. It won't take long to get that in, and then these are all shaped and all ready to go, which should save me a bit of time tomorrow. So we'll pop this jig off and then we'll crack on. So I've had a few people ask about the quality of these chassis repair panels. Now it is good that you can actually get these, and obviously aftermarket parts are never the best, but these don't fit particularly well. We're just going to show you a couple of the issues we come across with these. So when you lay this on, you can see there the hole is quite far out, the panels actually overlap. So you can see there, these panels actually overlap. So what we do is, once we've got our rough position of our hole, we mark these up, because you don't want to overlay these, because this panel needs to drop to line this hole up a bit closer. You can see that. So this panel needs to come down. To do that, we've got to trim this section out, and then once we've got this trimmed out, we'll squeeze this in and we can butt weld that up. Also, they do come with some creases in there which do need to be knocked out. Now, these need to be folded in, so that can go inside this section. So once we squeeze this down and make it tight, we'll then have to scribe a line down here as well, and then we can trim that section off. Also, as I mentioned on a previous video, swan neck covers are handed, so they are different left to right, but unfortunately these panels come only one-sided. So this section here should actually be on this side. So we've actually got to do quite a lot of modifications here to make this fit nicely into this corner. And then we've also got to trim this down to make this side fit up into this corner here. So we're going to have a mess about with this now. We'll see how well we can get them to fit, and then we'll update you once we've got them somewhere near and show you the best we can possibly make them fit. We've just come across something on this panel that we've not come across before. These holes are actually a mile out. This side lines up pretty well. That side's a mile out. And if you actually look through the panel, the difference in the holes, the position of the holes, are actually way out on either side. If you look at the gap from that hole to the bottom of the panel compared to that hole to the bottom of the panel, this hole on this side is actually a hell of a lot lower than the one on this side. So that's now going to cause us quite a bit of problems. I'm going to have to elongate that hole on this side, and then I'll have to remake some of this, a bit of weld, and grind it all back, because it's a half a hole out, so we're going to have to elongate this now. Right, so we got all these patches welded in, we've got all our welds flatted back best we can. Again, this is under the side of the car. Once this is all primed and under sealed, you pretty much won't see any of this. This will pretty much be an invisible repair. So that's all come out pretty well considering how bad it was. Quite happy with that. Still didn't get time to get into this rear arch. As usual, things do take longer than you expect. We've had a bit of messing about doing these chassis rails, getting them somewhere near, because we are expecting these jacking points tomorrow. So this will give us an head start. Once these arrive, we can then lay these in. We've got this to the point as close as we can. We can't really do anything else now because we need to start fixing this down with some welds and then working into this section. There is still quite a large gap here, again, because these are handed. This is the wrong side. So once we've got some welds in here, we can flat this folded edge down into the car and get this welded up. Again, on that side, same thing. We've made a scribe line up here. Now we've got that fold, and then we can trim this off, butt it up, get it all welded in. So that's pretty much it again for tonight. I'll do another video tomorrow, and I'll see you on the next one.